Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Commanding General, Major General Jason E. Kelly, and the Post Command Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Eric E. Oakes, welcome to the United States Army Training Center and Fort Jackson for the retirement review of one soldier and graduation of companies Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo from the 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment, 193rd Infantry Brigade. Please stand for the invocation given by Chaplain Kiskama Lamore.
Kindly join me in prayer. Adonai, we invoke you as we gather to witness the retirement of Staff Sergeant Brandon Lane Steinberger and to honor these soldiers graduating from basic combat training. Your providence and fortitude made them withstand the rigors of BCT to the end. Grant them the spirit of long-suffering to have longevity in this profession. Wherever they may find themselves, may they always strive for excellence in the defense and service of this nation. On the retirement of Staff Sergeant Brandon Steinberger and his wife Autumn, we are indebted for the care you showed them throughout their years of service. May the years ahead of them be rewarding. Finally, Lord, we invoke your blessing on this assembly. Turn your countenance towards our CG, the 193rd Command Team, the drill sergeants, cadre and command team of the 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment. We pray all this in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please be seated. The purpose of today's ceremony is to recognize the commitment of the men and women you see here who have chosen to serve their country as soldiers. This review is the last official formation in the career of one lifelong soldier and the first for our newest soldiers. Not everyone successfully completes this difficult period of training. Far fewer are able to accept the challenges and difficulties that come with the life of a career soldier. But those in formation today represent disciplined, motivated, physically fit soldiers who exemplify the Army's 7 core values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. They are imbued with the warrior ethos and display a tenets of putting the mission first, never accepting defeat, never quitting, and never leaving behind a fallen comrade. This is an important day, and these soldiers can take great pride in their accomplishments. To the parents, families, and friends of these soldiers, Fort Jackson extends a very warm and sincere welcome. We are justifiably proud of our retirees' lifelong dedication to our nation and are truly honored that the next generation standing in the field have chosen to join our ranks. Please direct your attention to the left of the formation. The units marching today from your left to right are the 282nd Army Band, led by Sergeant First Class Matthew Johnston. Graduating soldiers from companies Alpha, Bravo, the Battalion Color Guard, and graduating soldiers from companies Charlie, Delta, and Echo. Identified by distinctive headgear are the drill sergeants. These dedicated, non-commissioned officers form the backbone of the Army's training center system, selected based on professional competence, leadership ability, and years of service. These men and women undergo intensive training to earn the right to wear their distinctive hat and insignia. With the drill sergeant hat goes the important responsibility of molding civilian men and women into soldiers. The commander of troops for today's ceremony is Major Marie R. Smith, who serves as the executive officer for the 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment. She and the battalion staff are positioned on the field. The reviewing officer for today's graduation is the commander of the 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Scott J. Haar. On his left is Command Sergeant Major Torrin P. Kern, the battalion's senior non-commissioned officer, master trainer, and principal advisor to the commander.
The battalion is formed.
River Raiders.
Row hard. Down. Order. On.
The commander of troops will now bring forward the colors and persons to be honored.
Colors and persons to be honored. Center. March.
Competence and commitment are the hallmarks of professionalism. The soldiers and drill sergeant coming forward will be recognized for their excellence in training and duty performance and served as examples to all.
Sir, the colors and persons to be honored are present.
Present the command.
River Raiders.
Row hard.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the national anthem. It is appropriate for soldiers not in uniform and all armed forces veterans to salute the American flag. We ask our civilian guests to please remove your headgear and place your right hand over your heart as our national anthem is played.
Down. Reset. On. Detachment. Reset. On.
Please be seated.
Detachment. Order. On. Down. Order. On.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to witness the retirement of a lifelong soldier. All soldiers begin their journey by graduating from basic combat training. Over the years, there have been changes to how the Army conducts basic training. However, many things remain the same. It was during basic training that this soldier was first introduced to the Army values. It is where they learn the importance of teamwork and that the Army truly is a family. That sense of team and Army family is still embedded in what is done here today. Over 20 years ago, this soldier took the same oath to defend this nation that your loved ones in the field have taken. We salute this great soldier as they pass the torch of freedom along to the newest generation of soldiers, your loved ones standing on the field today. A certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States will be presented to today's retiree. It reads, I extend to you my personal thanks and sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped to maintain the security of the nation during critical times in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of the military service. I trust that in the coming years you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you served. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our American freedoms. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. At this time, Major General Kelly and Command Sergeant Major Duncan will recognize our retiree for their service to the United States Army. Staff Sergeant Brandon Steinberger, having served honorably for 20 years of service, is placed on the retirement list effective 30 September 2024. Staff Sergeant Steinberger entered active duty in St. Louis, Missouri, and will reside in Columbia, South Carolina upon retirement. His fondest professional achievement is training soldiers on the profession of arms. The nation salutes Brandon Steinberger, Staff Sergeant, United States Army, retired. Please join me in a round of applause for our retiree and his family. Although newly retired, he will always be a part of our Army family. The non-commissioned officers most responsible for the training of these soldiers are the drill sergeants, who are carefully selected by the Department of the Army. The drill sergeant campaign hat and badge have been a stoic symbol of professionalism and pride since 1962. At this time, the drill sergeant of the cycle for the 3rd Battalion's 60th Infantry Regiment, Staff Sergeant Lonnie Leatherwood, will recite the drill sergeant creed. We ask that all drill sergeants, past and present, please stand for the reciting of the drill sergeant creed.
I am a drill sergeant. I will assist each individual in their efforts to become highly motivated, well-disciplined, physically, mentally fit soldier, capable of defeating any enemy on today's modern battlefield. I will instill pride in all I train, pride itself, in the Army, and in country. I will insist that each soldier meets and maintains the Army's standard of military bearing and courtesy, consistent with the highest traditions of the U.S. Army. I will lead by example, never requiring a soldier to attempt any task that I would not do myself. But first, last, and always, I am an American soldier, sworn to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. I am a drill sergeant. This will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Haar and Command Sergeant Major Kern will now present the awards. The outstanding drill sergeant of the cycle for the 3rd Battalion's 60th Infantry Regiment is Drill Sergeant Lonnie Leatherwood. The soldier leader of the cycle for Alpha Company is Private Michael Funkert. The soldier of the cycle for Alpha Company is Private Dante Rogers. The soldier leader of the cycle for Bravo Company is Private First Class Melody Peck. The soldier of the cycle for Bravo Company is Specialist Joshua McGinsky. The soldier leader of the cycle for Charlie Company is Private Malaya Sommers. The soldier of the cycle for Charlie Company is Specialist Catherine Eaton. The soldier leader of the cycle for Delta Company is Private Jason Randall. The soldier of the cycle for Delta Company is Private First Class Christopher Carmichael. The soldier leader of the cycle for Echo Company is Private First Class Nicholas Wiggum. The soldier of the cycle for Echo Company is Private First Class Jacob White. Ladies and gentlemen, the commander of the 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Scott J. Haar.
Good morning. Lieutenant General Francis, Sergeant Major McMurray, Major General and Mrs. Kelly, Major General and Mrs. Hood, Sergeant Major Oakes, Colonel Hutton, Colonel and Mrs. Metters, Sergeant Major and Mrs. Duncan, distinguished guests, and most importantly, the friends and family of Team River Raider, welcome. And thank you for joining us this morning as we celebrate the accomplishments of Basic Combat Training Class 24-03. Now look, before I go any further, I have to stop and say thank you to the 282nd Army Band on the field with us today. They look, but even more importantly, they sound great. And so please join me in a round of applause thanking them for adding a touch of class to our ceremony. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we begin here this morning, I invite you to cast your gaze out onto the field in front of you. But first, focus your gaze in the background, on that big sign in the back, the one that proudly says, "We make American soldiers." As the "we" implies, it is in fact a team effort to produce the finest quality of soldier that our nation demands. And you all are a big part of that team. Because even though we love to rightly boast here at Fort Jackson that victory starts here, victory also starts with you all in your homes as you provide the critical love, support, guidance, and upbringing that makes an individual want to answer their nation's call. And so I first want to thank you all for raising the sons and the daughters and the loved ones with the personal attributes and the inherent desire to serve their nation. The soldiers on the field today are first and foremost a reflection of your efforts, and I thank you for trusting us, for trusting me with your most precious resources during their time at Fort Jackson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, shift your gaze off of that sign in the background and onto the 1,226 new American soldiers, your soldiers, who are standing proudly before you today. Regardless of any changes to technology, changes in tactics, or changes in strategies in combat, warfare remains a fundamentally human endeavor, waged by human beings. And this is why our nation will always require soldiers to fight and win its wars. As such, the Army prides itself as being a people business. And we here at Team River Raider and the rest of Team Jackson are in the business of producing and developing the finest people for service to our nation. And ladies and gentlemen, as you can plainly see in front of you today, business here at Fort Jackson is booming. I'm so proud to be a part of our mission, making American soldiers. And not just American soldiers, but also American citizens. That's right. For among the soldiers on the field today are 98 newly minted American citizens who had the opportunity to be naturalized as part of their BCT experience. Please join me in a round of applause welcoming these new Americans. Thank you. And I promise you, our nation and our future is in good hands with all of these new American soldiers on the field today. They are our mission, and our mission is critical. Now, for these soldiers out here, their journey started 10 weeks ago when they arrived at Fort Jackson. The beginning part of their training was about discipline, confidence, fitness, becoming a soldier. They endured countless inspections. They learned how to march, become part of a team, and challenge themselves to improve their mental and physical fitness. Now, later on, their training focused on gaining confidence in their military equipment as they wore their chemical protective masks in our gas chamber and learned to fire their weapon systems accurately at varying distances and under stress. They gained confidence in their training, their leaders, and again in themselves. Each endured a series of challenging yet critical Army tasks designed to test their mettle and adaptability. They gained mental and physical fortitude through daily physical fitness work and by learning to march great distances under heavy loads. Each of these tests of grit and discipline showed them the importance of being a reliable and trusted teammate, and it taught them the importance of taking care of each other. Indeed, for many on the field today, these last 10 weeks have represented the single greatest challenge of their lives. Well, 1,226 have met that challenge and now stand proudly before you. To the River Raiders on the field today, I want to say it's been such an honor and joy watching you transform from civilian into soldier over the last 10 weeks. And I'm so proud to be your commander and inspired by your example of grit and determination. Now, these soldiers on the field now join the ranks of military professionals, both past and present. And I want to take this opportunity to recognize all those who have proudly served our nation. You know, our connections, the Army's connections to its past, are a vital component that sustains the current and future generations of the Army warfighter. And this is something I experienced firsthand last week when I got the chance to have coffee with some local veterans out in the community. There, I met a long-range reconnaissance patrol leader who served 2 tours in Vietnam, and we talked for about an hour. And over the course of our conversation, I could barely get a word in as this proud veteran recounted stories of heroism from Vietnam and other places. You know, about the only time I could get a word in was when he asked me this question. He said, "Scott, how's the Army doing today?" Now, in the tone of his question, I heard several things. I heard hopeful optimism, I heard genuine curiosity, but I also heard a strain of concern, as if perhaps in this individual's mind, the Army of today was not quite ready for the challenges of modern combat and modern warfare. But I tell you, it gave me great pride to be able to look into the eyes of this living legend and proudly tell him, "Sir, you don't need to be worried about the Army today. Our recruits are motivated, they're talented, disciplined, and they're trained by the absolute best trainers in the world. In short, our Army remains lethal and ready for whatever comes next." You know, I think he was as happy to hear that answer as I was to give it. And as we continue to contemplate and ponder briefly this morning the linkages to our past, we have a special honor of having several former River Raider soldiers in attendance with us today. Mr. John Iannucci, Mr. David Rue, and Mr. A.R. Montillo, all of whom served honorably during the River Raiders' storied legacy in Vietnam. Gentlemen, it is an absolute honor to have you here with us today and your family members. And I invite you and all veterans to stand and be recognized. Yeah, please join me in a round of applause for these heroes. Thank you. And again, to the soldiers on the field today, you are now a part of their sacred heritage, and you must do everything you can to honor and live up to their legacy. Now look, the soldiers on the field before you were led there by their amazing team of drill sergeants. This hand-selected, this hand-selected elite group of experts represents the absolute best that the Army has to offer in training American soldiers. These drill sergeants work many long days and many long nights, sacrificing much, but they do so with a sense of pride and purpose as they transform individuals into the types of soldiers that will one day uphold our legacy. Cycle after cycle, these drill sergeants arrive before trainees awake, and they depart only after trainees bed down. Because of this demonstrated commitment, I'm convinced that while everyone here will forget my name, and will certainly forget these remarks, no one on that field out there, no one, is going to forget the name of their drill sergeant who led them on their journey from civilian to soldier. For this reason, I encourage you to seek out these drill sergeants as you encounter them today and this week, recognized by their distinctive headgear, and offer them your heartfelt thanks for their efforts, for we truly cannot thank them enough. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to address the River Raiders on the field one last time directly. River Raiders, you have met the call to service and sacrifice that many in our nation are unwilling or unable to make. You know, fewer than 1% of Americans volunteers for service in the US military, which makes you part of an elite few willing to give their last full measure of devotion and service to this nation. Take pride in the profession that you've joined. And while your victories may have started here at Fort Jackson, please do not let them end here. Remain dedicated and vigilant as you head out into the Army world to complete your missions. Each mission is vital to the success of the Army, the nation, and our way of life. And finally today, I want to again thank our extended Army families here with us today. Thank you for your love and support to your soldiers and this nation. And I would ask that you continue to support your new soldiers because they have become something different, something better than they once were. They are now a part of the greatest army in the world and will forever be a part of its legacy. And in these consequential times in our nation's history, there can be no higher calling and no greater purpose. River Raiders, no ground to give, and victory. Thank you.
Today's soldier is, above all, a warrior, adaptive, confident, and competent. As a soldier, you are totally committed to the warrior ethos, grounded in Army values, and determined to destroy enemies of the United States of America and her allies. The United States Army Soldiers' Creed embodies this commitment. To the soldiers on the field, the uniform you wear at this moment is more than an outward display of your vocational choice. Your uniform is a symbol of a nation and an unspoken assurance to all who see you that you are a willing and able protector of the freedoms fought so arduously for by all who have gone before and those who will bravely come after. You have become what you set out to be, a soldier in the United States Army. The Soldier's Creed is your declaration of your unshakable commitment to the ideals this nation was founded upon and will continue to guarantee. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as Private Jason Randall presents a certificate of appreciation to today's retiree and leads the soldier standing before you through the reciting of the Soldier's Creed.
A Soldier's Creed!
I'm an American soldier. I'm a warrior member of the team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior's rescue drills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier.
Please be seated.
Pass and review.
River Raiders,
Row hard.
pass and review.
In consideration of those around you, we ask that you kindly remain seated and in the bleachers until all soldiers have passed the reviewing stand and the conclusion of the ceremony is announced. As you are approached by the American flag, it is appropriate to rise and remain standing until it's passed to your right. Once the ceremony has concluded, family members of awardees may meet their soldier under the canopy located to the left of the bleachers. All other family members and friends, please meet your soldier on the field, once instructed by the narrator and by respective companies. The 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry, was constituted in May 1917 in the regular Army as Charlie Company, 60th Infantry. It was organized in June 1917 at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, during the outset of the First World War. In November 1917, the regiment participated in the campaigns of Saint-Mihiel, Alsace-Lorraine, and finally in the war-ending campaign of the Meuse-Argonne. The battalion fought with superb distinction throughout the Second World War, beginning with the Algeria-French-Morocco invasion at Port Lyautey as part of Operation Torch. In February 1943, the battalion was an integral part of pushing Field Marshal Rommel's Africa Corps from the Kasserine Pass. In France, during the heroic days of June 1944, the battalion led the way for the division as it spearheaded the American advance out of Utah beachhead that cut the continental peninsula and secured the vital port of Cherbourg. For the battalion's actions at the pivotal crossing of the Douve River, the battalion was awarded a Presidential Unit Citation. Following the final advance into Central Europe, the battalion received another Presidential Unit Citation for capturing the Schmenuel Dam. The battalion was inactivated in November 1946 while in Ingolstadt, Germany. The battalion was selected to be one of the first units to return to the United States from Vietnam. On July 8, 1969, the unit was greeted by General William C. Westmoreland, a former commander of the 60th Infantry from 1945 to 1946, on their return to Seattle, Washington. And on August 1, 1969, the unit was deactivated at Fort Riley, Kansas. The battalion was finally called back to the active Army on November 16, 2005 at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. The 360th instills the spirit of the Go Devil Regiment and the River Raiders Battalion into the hearts and minds of today's young fighting soldiers. Passing the reviewing stand is the commander of troops, Major Marie R. Smith, and the battalion staff. The 282nd Army Band is commanded by Sergeant First Class Matthew Johnston, the drum major Sergeant Jonathan Gifford. Alpha Company is commanded by Captain Boomer Bakich. First Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Carlos Ortiz and trained by Drill Sergeant Edgar Aguayo. 2nd Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Kenya Roberts and trained by Drill Sergeant Quindon Bush. Third Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Marshall Dennis and trained by Drill Sergeant Matthew Jenkins. Fourth Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Nicholas Brule and trained by Drill Sergeant Tanai Hippolyte. In the rear of the formation is the company First Sergeant Dustin Conrad. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are approached by the American flag, it is appropriate to rise and remain standing as passed to your right. Bravo Company is commanded by Captain Shalermpon Brownsey. First Platoon is led and trained by Senior Drill Sergeant Caleb Williams. Second Platoon is led and trained by Senior Drill Sergeant Courtney Gray. Third Platoon is led and trained by Senior Drill Sergeant Christopher Storer. Fourth Platoon is led and trained by Senior Drill Sergeant Michael Nanez. In the rear of the formation is the company First Sergeant Matthew Medina. Charlie Company is commanded by Captain Paul Mark Ballesteros. First Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant John Miller and trained by Drill Sergeant Terrell Francis. Second Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Christopher Boyd and trained by Drill Sergeant Renee Sotomayor. Third Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Aaron Jenkson and trained by Drill Sergeant Nicholas Kilpatrick. Fourth Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Andrea Rodriguez and trained by Drill Sergeant Franklin Lindsay. In the rear of the formation is the company First Sergeant Robert Addington. Delta Company is commanded by Captain Kelly Damon. First Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Billy O'Keefe and trained by Staff Sergeant Robert Spencer. Second Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Marshall Jenkins and trained by Drill Sergeant Jose Koss. 3rd Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Jaime Garcia and trained by Drill Sergeant Janercy Gomez Garcia. Fourth Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Tucker Easter and trained by Sergeant First Class Mandy Francisco. In the rear of the formation is the company First Sergeant Dennis Ferris. Echo Company is commanded by Captain William Dietz. 1st Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Eric Eisenberger and trained by Drill Sergeant Andrew Yost. Second Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Fernando Osoria and trained by Drill Sergeant Tatiana Uoba. Third Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant Colt Frisbee and trained by Drill Sergeant Cameron Bovey. Fourth Platoon is led by Senior Drill Sergeant David Freeman and trained by Drill Sergeant Pedro Campos. In the rear of the formation is the company First Sergeant Chad Kennedy. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Army song, and please remain in the bleachers until the conclusion of the ceremony is announced. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please enjoy the rest of your day and have a safe journey home. Victory starts here.